Warriors, back with another episode of Vigor Warriors 2 and our 1% Club. So, thank you once again for all the comments and the subscriptions and the likes. We're going up little by little, and I'm not as concerned about it. That actually, I'm concerned about trying to get the information out. So please, the comments are more important to me. Comments focusing on what can I do to kind of give you guys some information, enlighten the situation a little bit. I'm moving to my enlightenment. I'm trying to move closer to God in my viewpoint, and I'm trying to get there closer. So these little things I'm doing, I'm hopefully getting closer where I can actually kind of experience it. So I think I'm on day 484, and monk mode, I think it's 8-9 days. Now I got to go back and look at that. But the thing about it is that I'm trying to continue to eliminate all these type of temptations so I can just focus on my goals and get to where I need to go. All right, and I hope you're doing the same type of thing. So this was an interesting one. I love going back to the Greek philosophers, and I love looking at different types of ways they looked at things in the past, because all human stories repeat themselves. And the nice thing about history is if you go back and look at history, you'll see the same stories happening. The same behaviors happened in the Roman Empire, happened before the Roman Empire, right? And the Mayas and the Incas and all these things, and even the English, dynasties that we had. All these type things have happened. Human beings are human beings. And at some level, there's going to be temptation and those type of things throughout your life that's going to try to define you and sap that energy. Now, back then, they may have not known about these things, though you can go back to look at religion, which I probably stand corrected on that, because yes, they did know about all this. If you look at the Bible, they talk about the celibacy type of thing, not losing your energy, or else you're going to become dirty, right? You look at all the other types of religions, you look at brahmacharya, Sufism, all these type of things, and they're focusing on control, restraining. And the same thing happened with Plato. So a little quick history here, guys. So Socrates, which is a famous philosopher who died for his own cause, right? He stood up for what he thought was right, and that was corruption and all the types of things within that system that he had, the politicians back then, right? No different than the things we have today, right? Same ideas. He stood for that. Now he mentored Plato. And Plato started this academy we'll talk about in a second. And this is going to be the title one, it's going to be Plato and the Academy. But then Plato also, he tutored Aristotle, who then tutored Alexander the Great. And if you look at warriors, a lot of the warriors were tutored by the great philosophers of the old, and the Sparta warriors and the philosophers we had. So when we look at this type of thing, Plato is a key figure when it comes to trying to figure out, back of the old Stoicism, they call it, being stoic. And I'll do another one on Stoicism because I think it ties in a lot to what we're talking about here. But the type of man you should be is focusing on what Plato did with his academy. He because of the Socrates situation, and they killed Socrates, they poisoned him and tried to do all kinds of things to him, and they finally just sent him to the gallows and killed him. But Plato was so disheartened by this that he made it his goal the rest of his life to go after the morality of the politicians, of the people in society, and trying to help people as much as he did. And so that's why he's still a very famous figure after all these type of years. So when we look at what he did, was he did create an academy in which he taught values of people. And sure enough, one of the biggest values in his academy was the idea of self-control. That you have to try to use your energy within yourself to do that. And later on, as it went down from him to Aristotle to Plato, to Alexander the Great, obviously the people in battle did the same type of thing, right? You look at people in battle those days, it was no different than these days. Whether it's a sports athlete not having sex before, or it's a philosopher telling a warrior, don't have sex before you actually go ahead and go out to battle. Those type of things are all the same type of principle. Save your energy, use it constructively, and move it on. And that's what Plato talked about in his academy. He basically wanted people to be in control of themselves, not to kind of go through all these lascivious behaviors, which was very common back then, whether it was Rome, Sparta, Athens, Greece, whatever it might be. If you're talking about the Greek philosophers, the Roman philosophers, you had a lot of different period times there, and kind of overlapping things a little bit, when people actually kind of gave into their temptations. This is why a lot of empires fell. The Roman Empire is the greatest one you can look at, right? You look at the behaviors that happened before Caesar, and then as Caesar went on, looking at Caligula, all those behaviors. And what happens is when people get into mass types, orgies, and different things that happen, then what they end up doing is they're going to violent behaviors, anger, because they're losing energy, right? They're doing all these type of things to create more of a problem. And as you do this more, what ends up happening is you self-destruct, not only as a person, but as a society. And that's why it's key for you to understand the whole role of yourself, your energy in these type of things. And then so it's no different today than it was in Plato's day, when basically he set up an academy because he knew there was a lot of corrupt people running the government. There was a lot of corrupt people in the world, and the temptation was very great. See, guys, we're in a battle every day. We're in a battle, not physically necessarily, not things you can see, even though they're there if you want to really see them, but it's more of a behind the scenes spiritual type of thing that's taking people over. And I don't think anybody necessarily is a bad person. I think they may have spirits in them that take control of them, whether it's through drinking, whether it's through gambling, whether it's an addiction of one to another, and they're at the point where they can't control their own behavior. And now they're looking to other people for those type of things. I think an addiction, for instance, is really they talk about addiction being a lot of causes. I think the major cause is really a communication of suffering. That person is suffering, so they're going to something to try to ease that pain. And that's why you see suicide and a lot of the other things that happen, because they can't find any way to do that. But the pain is coming from within, and they can't find a way to solve that. And I was there many, many, many years ago, so I understand that whole idea of trying to you can't find an answer, but the answer is really within. And I think once you start believing that, understanding that, then all of a sudden life takes a big change. And of course, when you're on your journey, now you're going to a whole different level of life. And that's why you guys are in the 1% club. Because what ends up happening is that you're in a different level. You're in a whole different way to look at life. And as you do your journey longer and longer, you now become into a different type of air that you're in. Remember, they talked about basketball players being in the rarefied air. Well, the 1% of you guys that are doing this right now, you're in that airspace. You're in a different space. You may not realize it, but other people see that and they understand that. But just by what you're doing, you're setting yourself apart. And this is why, you're in Plato's type of rarefied air, Socrates, right? We still think of these people, and we're talking about 300, 400 BC. And you're talking about guys, this is before Christ. So we still have books on these people, right? We're still writing books. And how old is this person? Okay, let's take a look at this. 2,000 years, right? We're 2021. Add another 300-400 years on. You're talking almost 24, 25, right? 25, you're talking about 2,500 years that these people were alive. And we're still remembering these people? That can tell you something about the importance of these people. So that's why I say when you look at Plato, and I always bring in these type of philosophers, Greek philosophers and sometimes Roman philosophers, I bring them in because I want you to kind of go ahead and think about that this problem that you're having is not something that's new. In fact, we've had this problem. Now, they may have not had pictures the same way and television, these type of things, of course, but they had other ways to do this and other types of means to make men weaker. And I think that's what was going on back in those old days, especially when the empires fell. The men became weaker, and what ends up happening then is as the men become weaker, the armies become weaker, and we become then more susceptible. And a great example is the Roman Empire. Because they destroyed themselves from within with all of these lascivious, and what I mean by lascivious, and all these corrupt, you know, immoral behaviors that they had, especially in sex and all those type of things, that they ended up becoming so weak that other people, like Attila the Hun, and other people coming in and taking over the dynasty, because they no longer could go ahead and protect themselves because they no longer were strong. They were more sucked into all those other type behaviors. So once again, Plato and the Academy. If you haven't had a chance, and I'll put a book in the link here. If you haven't had a chance, go ahead and read some of Plato, and even Socrates and Aristotle, and certainly Alexander the Great. It's always great, my friends, to go back and look at history of past warriors and people that really used a lot of this journey to succeed and do great things. And if you want to look at things that have done great, you look at things with people who have done great things. And 99% of those people have learned to control themselves and build that confidence and then communicate success out that way. All right, so hope this helps, my friends. Have a great day and battle on.